Adem.
Bapak lagi di courtnya.
Terus. Sejam 45 menit, 45 detik.
We have pondered our place amongst the stars since the dawn of humankind. We've looked to the stars with wonder and amazement, their glow guiding our travel for centuries. The more we learn, our number one goal is to return home safely. So always stay seated while the bus is in motion. Please, no food or drinks on the bus with the exception of water. Please keep conversation to a minimum so others may hear and enjoy the tour. No photography is permitted at the security gates.
This rocket that you'll see standing tall in front of KSC's badging station is the Mercury Redstone rocket. It represents NASA's earliest efforts to send humans into space. These Redstone rockets were formerly ballistic missiles provided to NASA by the U.S. Army. In October of 1958, NASA formally organized Project Mercury with a mission to investigate man's reaction to this new environment and safely recover the capsule and its pilot. Man rating for human spaceflight on what was previously a ballistic missile was no easy task. After several modifications and test flights, a Mercury capsule carrying January 31st, 1961. Just months later, on May 5th, astronaut Alan Shepard launched on a Mercury Redstone rocket, becoming the first American in space.
All right here on our right is the Mercury Redstone rocket, and that little black capsule on top is just like the capsule that Alan Shepard sat in before launch. And it looks like it's on a blue stand. Well, that blue stand is actually the launch pad.
Space Center, where NASA astronauts have ventured forth on flights of exploration since the 1960s. And what an exciting time to visit our multi-user spaceport. Through our Commercial Crew program, we are sending astronauts to the International Space Station from American soil for the first time since the Space Shuttle program ended in 2011. We're continuing to launch new research experiments and supplies to the space station with our commercial resupply services and launching the most technologically advanced scientific instruments to date into space through our Launch Services program. This all culminates in our ultimate mission, the Artemis program, where NASA will return to the moon. this time with the first woman and first person of color, and continue on to Mars. In all our history, there's been one common theme woven throughout our DNA. It's our insatiable desire to explore beyond our home planet in our never-ending quest to expand our knowledge of the universe. As you venture behind the gates, you'll find a community of the most talented, dedicated, motivated workforce anywhere in the world who believe in the unlimited potential of space exploration. This is an active spaceport where new things are happening every day. You never know what you might see, so enjoy your tour.
You are now approaching the Vehicle Assembly Building, or as NASA calls it, the VAB. It is one of the largest buildings in the world by volume, and is the place where NASA completes the final assembly of its rockets before launch. The sheer scale of this building is hard to grasp, even when you're right next to it.
Do you ever feel really small when you think about space? What about when you're standing next to a skyscraper or a really big bridge? Well, I feel about as small as an ant right now. I'm standing inside the Vehicle Assembly Building trying to grasp how large it really is in here. It has 4 bays. Each bay has 2 large horizontal doors below it and 7 smaller vertically opening doors above it, tall enough to fit the world's largest rocket through. In fact, these are the largest doors in the world.
Construction of the VAB required 65,000 cubic yards of concrete, 45,000 steel beams, 1 million steel bolts, amounting to almost 100,000 tons of steel. Notice the flag painted on the outside of the VAB? It's the size of a 21-story building. The blue section alone is the size of an NBA basketball court. Each star is 6 feet across, and each red and white stripe is wide enough for this bus to drive down. And the entire VAB? It's so huge that the Roman Colosseum would fit on the roof with room to spare for a parking lot. By volume, the VAB can fit 3.5 Empire State Buildings, and it would take 250 billion ping pong balls to fill it. It was built in the 1960s for the Apollo program. Every Saturn V rocket that sent humans to the moon was assembled right here. Every space shuttle mission also assembled within these same walls. After the space shuttle program, a major renovation to the inside of this building began to accommodate NASA's next generation of rockets, the Space Launch System, or SLS. Lockheed Martin has developed a capsule called Orion that will sit atop the SLS rocket. This capsule is designed to facilitate human exploration of the moon and eventually Mars.
Take a look at the 4-story building with the slanted windows as we drive through this area. This is the Launch Control Center, where launch directors and their teams oversee every rocket that lifts off from KSC and give the final go or no-go. I'm inside the LCC with Charlie Blackwell-Thompson, NASA's first female launch director. Now, Charlie, can you tell us a little bit more about what a launch director does?
Absolutely. The launch director's job during the planning phase is to ensure that you have everything in place that you need to safely and successfully launch the Artemis missions. That includes things like your requirements are set, your launch commit criteria are understood, your procedures are ready to go, and your team is trained. The folks that sit in this room on launch day, they have a tough job, and that's to determine if the flight and the ground systems are go or no go. And I depend on them to make those calls on launch day.
Yeah, makes sense. So I hear that you're going to be behind the VAB at level 26, 274 feet up. And I can see behind us, right over to the right, a newly added crew access arm attached to this mobile launcher. I want everyone here to meet Cliff Lanham, the mobile launcher project manager. Cliff, can you explain the significance of adding that access arm?
Sure. The crew access arm is one of the last major modifications to the mobile launcher in preparation for SLS and Orion. It basically will be the very last place on Earth that the crew will be before they're in the spacecraft and headed to space. Now, the weight room provides a contamination-free environment up next to the spacecraft, and as you suspect, it's white. Hence the white room.
Makes sense. Now, how does the mobile launcher support the SLS rocket?
The mobile launcher provides fuel and power to the SLS and Orion.
Bel, foto Bel. Oh yeah, foto gitu Bel.
NASA is known for dreaming big, and big dreams require big...
39B. That is the launch pad that NASA is using. But we'll talk about that more when we pull into Saturn V, because we can see them again. But over on our far right is Cape Canaveral Space Force launch pad. Launch right up there, launch pad 41, United Launch Alliance, their Atlas V. Directly across those 4 lightning towers, that is another launch pad for SpaceX, launch pad 40, Falcon 9, and back launch pad 37, United Launch Alliance, Delta Heavy. And as we turn over here on our left, the building with the dark windows, that is Launch Control Center that they talked about earlier in the video. And of course, the vehicle assembly building with the world's tallest doors. They are 456 feet tall, and they take 45 minutes to open. And the rock that you see here, that is the special roadway for the crawler transporter with the mobile launch platform and rocket on top of it. It is Tennessee River Rock from Alabama, but they'll tell you more about it in the video. And remember, up in front of us is building with the blue mural on the side, because I will talk about it when we're on the other side.
This thing has 2,750 horsepower, V16 diesel engines that can carry the crawler up to a top speed of, wait for it, 1 mile.
Tail of the shuttle fit in. You can see it fit in there just like a glove. Okay, and here's the crawler. I'm going to stop up here for a minute. We'd like to get some pictures. I know it's not a great angle. And first we're going to wait for this bus to go around. See his mic. Okay. Gate right there.
Kelihatan nggak tuh?
Yeah. Because there's also tire tread down there the other day.
Tuh.
I mean, that's not a gate, it's a tire tread.
Oh, bukan yang bukan.
That's a gator.
Well, I ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
When President John F. Kennedy made this speech in 1962, he set in motion an era of discovery that would change humankind forever. 7 years after he spoke these ambitious words, the world launched as Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin became the first people to walk on the moon. The achievements of the men and women who worked on the space program in these early decades of NASA helped propel the technology we use every day. NASA and the thriving private space industry at Kennedy Space Center today are the living legacy of their story. As we arrive at the Apollo Saturn V Center to learn more about that historic era, get ready to step back into a time when NASA had everything to prove to a nation focused on one goal: to be the first country to land a person on the moon.
How do you take a dune buggy to the moon? The Lunar Roving Vehicle, or LRV, was designed with a hinged, 3-part frame so it could be folded up and transported in the lunar module's Quadrant 1 bay. It had 2 side-by-side foldable seats made of tubular aluminum with nylon webbing and aluminum floor panels. An armrest was mounted between the seats, which had adjustable footrests and a Velcro-fastened seat belt. Once on the surface, astronauts deployed the LRV from the LEM's open Quadrant 1 bay. The rover components locked into place upon opening. Cabling, pins, and tripods would then be removed, and the seats and footrests raised. After mounting and switching on all the electronics, the vehicle was ready to explore the lunar surface. How do you take a launch abort system? During launch, the Saturn V rocket was filled with 3,000 tons of highly explosive fuel. Engineers designed an injection system for the command module in the case of an emergency on the pad or shortly after launch. The launch escape system would be triggered if 2 or more first-stage engines lost thrust or if the rocket experienced excessive pitch, yaw, or roll, endangering the flight. During a successful launch, the launch escape tower and protective cover are jettisoned at approximately 300,000 feet. During an emergency, the launch escape tower's 4 solid fuel rocket engines ignite to thrust the command module and crew away from the rocket to a safe distance where it can deploy parachutes and complete a successful splashdown. The barbecue roll. In space, temperatures fluctuate hundreds of degrees between the light and the shade. During the 3-day journey to the moon, the side of the spacecraft facing the sun could overheat, while the side facing away from the sun could freeze. To distribute the temperature evenly, the spacecraft would rotate as it traveled through space, giving its entire surface equal exposure time to the sun's warmth. It rotated 6 revolutions per hour, or slower. This technique was called passive thermal control, or PTC, but it was also known casually as the barbecue roll.
Oh, ini astronot Hall of Fame lagi. Ini kita. Ini astronot. Hah? Ngapain? Yang terbaru. Oh iya, yang terbaru ya. Masih banyak ya, deh foto dulu. Foto di sini yang benernya.